Good morning. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. My name is Carol White, and I would be glad to welcome you to this week's segment of When Life Needs a Detox. As I said, my name is Carol White. I am an author, publisher. I'm the owner of MHB Publishing LLC. And for the purposes of this talk, I am your life detox strategist. Now, in the last, well, let's say for the last 3 months, I've been speaking to you guys about racism and history. Well, I'm going to take another road today. And I just want to talk to you about something that has absolutely nothing to do with racism and history. We're going to talk about multiple sclerosis. I was recently diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And what it is a debilitating disease where it's a debilitating autoimmune disease that has your immune system attacking the fatty layer surrounding the nerves in your body, particularly in your brain and in your spinal cord. What happens is once your immune system eats away at that fatty layer, it leaves small openings so that the nerve conductors, as your brain is telling your body what to do, going down through the spinal cord, it's like a short circuit. If you just want to be honest, it's a short circuit. And the signal from the brain does not clearly get to certain aspects of your body if it gets there at all. And that is multiple sclerosis. You find most of the times, like for me, it affects just one side of my body. It affects my right side. So I have issues, like say, bending my foot at the ankle, where you're flexing your ankle, bringing your foot up. I have problems doing that. I have issues picking up my leg. My right leg feels heavier all the time. My right arm, I have difficulty raising it completely. As you can see, left side's fine. Right side gives me a couple of issues. And if you don't, it's a disease that as it progresses, the symptomology gets worse. And where you were walking on your own, you'll go from needing a cane to needing a walker. If you really don't go and get it treated, you're going to need a wheelchair. But it says it's a potentially debilitating disease. If you catch this disease, if you have it diagnosed and you do the treatment and you work with the treatment and you work your body, you can have a good life. Is it going to go away? At this point, they don't know. But they do know that they can give you a better quality of life as long as when they give you the treatment, you work with the treatments. And that's enough hope for anybody. Now, the thing is that there are 4 different types of, I was so excited to find this information, but yes, the reason I'm actually doing this today is because I had my very first Ocrevus infusion treatment for my multiple sclerosis yesterday. And I have to tell you, that filled me with so much joy. It also filled me with a sense of awe. And to be quite honest, a sense of terror. Really, because I'm going into something new. I'm going into an unknown, and it may work, it may not work. You know, I have what are known as diva veins. They kind of show up when they want to show up, and they work when they want to work. So for me, it's very, very difficult when you start talking about infusions or taking blood. You know, the phlebotomist and my techs at the infusion lab had to do a whole lot of work and stick me multiple times trying to find a vein that would work. Well, that causes me stress. So they're taking my blood pressure, and they're like, "Why is your blood pressure so high?" I said, "Well, for two reasons." I said, "Number one, I was late getting here, so I tend to panic when I'm late, especially for medical treatments. Number two, I had to go to the bathroom, something fierce, because when I get scared, my bladder goes into overdrive, and I'm not the only one. Okay? So don't even look at me like that." So I'm late. I have to go to the bathroom. So I finally get there, and I'm trying to calm down. And my body doesn't do things as fast as it used to. And also, I don't think I've ever said this to anybody before. Hospitals are not set up for the sick. Hospitals are set up to treat the sick, but they're not set up for the sick to get to their doctors. So don't get me wrong, I got my exercise in, my walking in, but by the time I get to the office, by the time I get to my treatment area, I'm exhausted. I am absolutely exhausted. So my blood pressure is high. You know, because the hospitals are designed for the employees of the hospital to get to and from where they have to go. But these are men and women with good legs that aren't experiencing what I'm experiencing. So for them to get to and from where they're going, they're great. But I will give them credit. They see me on my walker, and I'm trying to get to where I'm going, and they just like, "Come on, ma'am, we're sorry." I just tell them, "Go ahead. It's okay. I will get there." But hospitals are not set up for those of us that are sick or we're suffering from a condition and have to get to a doctor. They're just not. But like I said, there are 4 different types of multiple sclerosis. The first one is called clinically isolated syndrome. And it just means that the causes of the MS are due to inflammation or loss of the myelin within the body. And myelin is actually that covering over the nerves. Now, this clinically isolated syndrome can lead to other types of MS, but 9 times out of 10, people with the CIS or the clinically isolated syndrome never develop beyond that. They don't go past it. It doesn't progress. Now, there's called a relapsing remitting MS, which is the second type. And that accounts for 80 to 85% of initial diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. You have episodes of inflammatory activity and well-defined attacks of new or recurrent neurologic symptoms. Now, between these symptoms, a person with relapsing remitting MS will experience full or partial recovery in between their episodes. Now, my diagnosis was for primary progressive multiple sclerosis, and they give it the initials PPMS. It's less common. It accounts for only 10 to 15% of all these cases. For me, my neurological function is impaired, and it gets worse as the disease progresses. Because really, I started out with vertigo. Then, as my symptoms progressed, I was actually diagnosed with myelopathy, which is actually similar to MS. They have, their characteristics are similar, so they can be each can be mistaken for the other. I'll experience occasional plateaus of progression. There are going to be temporary minor improvements to the symptoms during the progression, but there are no relapses because mine just goes straight up. Okay, now the last one is called secondary progressive MS. It's normally seen as the next stage of the disease for people who have the relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. And 50% of the people with the RRMS will develop this secondary progressive within 10 years, and about 90% will do it after about 25 years. Now, the difference between the secondary progressive and relapsing remitting is that they may or may not involve occasional relapses, minor remissions, or plateaus, which means it's just going to keep going. But the reason I wanted to do this is that in the research that I was doing, I found out that there's not a lot of research that has been done on how MS actually affects Blacks and Hispanics. We don't get involved in clinical trials. We really don't. So the information that they have for multiple sclerosis is based upon the people who participate in the clinical trials. And we're talking about male white, male female white. That's the majority of who participates in these clinical trials. Now, let me take that finger back. I don't want to use that one. Blacks and Hispanics don't readily participate in these trials. We've talked about it before. There is generational fear of doctors in the Black community. And apparently, there's a generational fear of doctors within the Hispanic community as well. We're affected by this disease. Our numbers are growing. So we need to make sure that when they come out with these drugs to treat our diseases, they're actually treating us. Because there are several different ways to treat multiple sclerosis. I want to make sure I have all my information correct because, didn't really write all this down. I'm so sorry. Now, there are, okay, I got it here. That's symptoms. I have to look for treatments. But now the most common treatment for multiple sclerosis is medication. Now, they call them disease-modifying therapies. Now, it has been proven to slow down the progression and to keep your condition stable, which is great. Now, they usually prescribe this in the early stages of MS so that you can stop the symptoms from getting worse. But now, for my case, And that's another thing I want to talk about. Because the symptomology of MS mimics so many other diseases, many times you don't get your diagnosis right away. And I guess I had to realize this and come off of my high horse with my original neurologist, because I was so angry when because she's saying I had myelopathy, which again is, the symptomology is the same. It causes lesions within the spinal cord, and it debilitates the fat layer around the spinal cord as well. But our doctors are trained to hit certain pinpoints before they can say, yes, you have this. There is a physical and chemical laundry list of symptoms that you're expected to meet in order to have MS. Now, with me, I hit every physical pinpoint that there was for multiple sclerosis, but my chemical symptoms didn't match up. So they diagnosed me with the lesser condition. But I progressed, and I kept getting worse. And I'm telling my doctor, but because they don't see the chemical aspect of it, it's just my myelopathy got worse. I finally got fed up, and I said, I need a second opinion. I went to another neurologist specialized in neuromuscular conditions, at which point I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. They gave me an aggressive treatment plan, which included Ocrevus infusion therapy, which is the drug that I am taking vitamin D, physical therapy, and everything else you could possibly think of. They were absolutely fabulous. But they had to explain it to me. She didn't do any, your doctor didn't do anything wrong. She just wouldn't pull the trigger because she's trained to look at this from both physical and chemical. You didn't meet the chemical. We here understand it more. We understand it better. This is what you have. But the one thing I do want to stress, two things. Number one, if you think your condition, whatever medical condition you have, is something more than what you've been diagnosed with, do not be afraid to get a second opinion. Because although your doctor knows his business, you know your body. You live with it 24/7, 365. If you think something's not right, it's not that you don't trust your doctor. It's not that you don't believe your doctor, but you've got more information about you than your doctor. Period. End of story. The second thing that I want to stress to us, we as African Americans have got to, even though doctors intimidate us or just flat out scare us, when it comes to these drugs, we need to make sure that the information they have concerning how these drugs affect the body, they know how it affects us. We tend to have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease. We need to have information so that when they come out with these drugs are formulated to work within the conditions we already have. If we've got diabetes, if we've got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, these drugs don't give an interaction with the medications we're already taking. We've got to be careful. Now, I am going to leave the information that I have on multiple sclerosis in the feed. I should have been doing this as I was talking, but you all know how I am. I talk way, way, way too much. So, I have to sometimes apologize to you guys and just come on back and do what I need to do. Okay. But we're going to be talking about multiple sclerosis and and I can't type this morning. Isn't that shameful? But I just wanted to say this because it was on my heart to say to you. And I think we need to sit down. Not really sit down, just we need to make sure that when they're coming up with these drugs, that it's about us too. And I'm trying to make sure I get all the information. And this is taking a little longer. I apologize. And you know what? I love you all because you deal with me when I'm practically insane. And I apologize to you all. Okay. I want to get that treatment study. Or did I already do it? Let me go back. Okay. Here we go. That's most of them. Well, listen, we're almost 23 minutes in. Listen, guys, I will include all of my references in the comments a little later on, but I'm going to let you go this morning. We're going to be focusing on next month in January. I'm going to focus more on multiple sclerosis. What it is, what it does, the treatments, and how you feel. And how you make other people feel. I.e. your caregivers, your loved ones, because they're going to end up going through this with you too. So for right now, I bid you good morning. It has been a joy and a pleasure speaking with you today. I love you to the moon and back, and we will meet here again next Thursday. And for the rest of the month, we'll be finishing up the series on racism in history. But until then, I will see you soon. Bye-bye now.